Moving day had finally come. It felt surreal. After a year of relying on Nisha, I was stepping into my own space, my own little world. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Nisha, of course, was there to help, and so was Liz. I found out she lives here too, and right up the hall from me. She says it's fate, but I think the universe is just throwing me a bone after everything I've been through. As we carried boxes up the stairs, the vibe was light, jokes, laughter, and a few playful arguments about whose box was heavier. Nisha and Liz are so different, but together, they're a force. Nisha's the planner, Liz is the free spirit, and me? I guess I'm somewhere in between. Nisha couldn't stay long, she had plans. And by plans, I mean a date with Derek. Yes, the Derek from C-Suite. She's been so giddy about it all week. Turns out her and Derek have been going steady for a while now. After we finished moving the last of the boxes, Nisha glanced at her phone and said,
I hate to leave you guys like this, but if I don't get home now, I'll never be ready in time.
She was bummed about leaving us to go on her date, but Liz and I reassured her that we have it all under control and encouraged her to come back after her date if she's not too tired. Hours later, Liz and I had finally unpacked everything from my boxes and poured ourselves a nice tall glass of sweet red. Liz was surprised at how much stuff I had just from moving out of Nisha's guest room, but I told her how I splurged a little after signing my lease last week. I just wanted to have my new space feel like a little piece of home.
Think she'll come back later tonight? Or should we assume she's going home with Derek?
Knowing Nisha, she'll have him eating out of her hand before they eat dessert. The next day at work started with the usual hum of the office. Emails flooded in, my calendar filled up, and I was already juggling 3 different requests when Mr. Grady's voice broke through the intercom. He wanted to see me in his office for a second. As I walked in, my heartbeat tripled when I saw his face. His posture was so perfect, his hands tapping absent-mindedly against his keyboard. He gestured for me to sit, and I complied, trying to steady my breath.
Sophia, I've been reviewing your work on the quarterly reports. The level of detail you put in the data visualization, it's impressive. You're setting a high bar for my analytics team.
I thanked him. My voice was steady, but my heart was still pounding out of my chest. It wasn't just his words. It was the way he looked at me while I responded. His gaze wasn't intrusive. It was enduring, as if he was looking through my eyes and into my thoughts. He began asking me questions like,
why do you walk to work every day? What made you decide to move?
And finally,
are you currently in a relationship?
I stumbled over my answers because I was both embarrassed and puzzled on why he'd want to know about those specific aspects of my life. Then it dawned on me. He might be trying to figure out why I seem distracted some days. Or maybe he was genuinely interested in me. My mind was a whirlwind of contradictions. Focus, Sophia, focus. But how could I, when the very air between us felt charged? By the time our conversation ended, I felt both drained and energized, like I had just run a marathon and won. As I walked out, I felt his eyes on me, a weight and warmth that lingered even as the door closed behind me. My mind was reeling. Was that just me? Or had he felt it too? That subtle, unspoken connection that neither of us acknowledged, but both of us couldn't deny. Over the weekend, I took the liberty of breaking in my new place. It felt good to just lounge around and relax a bit. I'm not required to do any work for Mr. Grady over the weekends, but for my first year working there, I made it my mission to go above and beyond for him, which worked well for me because he has been entrusting me with greater tasks that other departments have fallen short on. This is a good thing for me because now I can add this experience to my resume and eventually apply for a long-term role within the company. Being Mr. Grady's personal assistant has been good so far, and he's a wonderful boss, but I'd be lying if I said it was easy to work alongside him every day without one inappropriate thought coming to mind. If I'm going to continue working for Grady Enterprises, I need to be able to focus. In the afternoon, I got a call from Nisha. We don't get to talk every day now that we're living separately.
Hey girl, what you doing?
I just took the last of my moving boxes to the dumpster.
I just want to fill you in on my date with Derek. We had the most amazing time last week. First, you took me out to dinner at this nice little Italian spot. We ate, we laughed, we did some flirting back and forth. Then, after we ate, he asked if I wanted to go for happy hour at the Spoke. So I said yeah. And it was great because I got to see what he was like with some drinks in his system. And he can definitely knock a few back without you even noticing he had a drink. But girl, when I tell you he dropped a bomb on me, I was a little in shock. He asked me how I felt about settling down and having kids. He put an S on the end of kid, Sophia, meaning plural. I don't even know if I can take care of one. I am borderline terrified of having a child, but I do love Derek. So when he asked me that, all I could do was tell him, I need to be married first before I start thinking about popping out some babies. Then, after that, he asked me to be his date at the company gala. So we got to talking about that and what we should wear. And then he suggested that you and I should go shopping for our dresses together since James, as in Mr. Grady, is going to ask you to be his date for the gala. And I was about to text you, but then he told me to just wait until Mr. Grady asked you himself. So I waited, but I also just spilled this tea because I know you've been on your lonely shit lately, and I wanted to give you the heads up before you were ambushed. I know you haven't been in a mood for dating since Roland has been in his creep bag, but this might actually be good for you.
My heart skipped a few beats when she told me that, but at the same time, I was a little let down because it had been a whole week since Derek told Nisha that, and Mr. Grady never asked. So I asked her if he was sure Mr. Grady was referring to me, and she assured me he was. I told Nisha Derek could have just been drunk, but either way, he shouldn't play like that because that's how rumors get started, and you already know I don't have time for any more shenanigans in my life. After we wrapped up our call, I told Liz I'd meet her by the pool today since it was a nice day to enjoy the hot weather. As Liz and I sat by the pool, I asked her what the annual galas are like.
It's basically a time to schmooze with our company's investors and be on our best behaviors so that they'll pour more money into the company. But some of the investors are real pervs. I would skip it this year, but Mr. Grady likes the whole office to be in full attendance to show our support. And Grady gives us a little bonus in our checks if the gala has a good turnout.
I couldn't believe some of the stories Liz told me about these investors. Sounds more like an HR violation party. And apparently, it's not like they can be reprimanded because this is the one event of the year that is solely paid by an investor himself, almost like a private party. So, it's whatever they say goes.
If you want, we can be each other's date to the gala this year, and we can get a table with Nisha and Derek.
Although I was hoping that Mr. Grady would still ask me to be his date to the gala, I couldn't leave Liz hanging. So I told her that I would be happy to go with her, and if anything changes, I know Liz will understand. After cooling off in the pool a bit, I got a message from the apartment staff saying that a package was delivered to my apartment. So I told Liz I had to go, and I headed inside to see what came. To my surprise, I received a bouquet of flowers. A beautiful arrangement of 24 iceberg roses. And as lovely as they are, I wasn't sure whether to be excited about receiving them or worried. I know Roland has been trying to contact me, but this also doesn't seem like a gesture he'd be mature enough to make. Still, who delivered these? With the gala taking place soon, Mr. Grady has been taking last-minute meetings with his executives so that he can be prepared to discuss the company's status on whatever topic may come up with them. Today, he met with our CFO, Jen.
Where are we on the most recent financial reports?
I'm going to be frank with you, James. We are not in a bad place, but our numbers don't compare to our previous 5 years. If we want to continue standing out as a top-tier developer, I think it'll be worth our while to expand our portfolio and look into some bigger deals. This might mean bringing in a consultant or putting a chief operating officer in place.
This is not the news I was hoping to hear today, Jen. Was my father made aware of this already?
He was briefed yesterday during his founder's brunch, but he didn't say much or seem to be upset.
That means he's furious.
Almost everyone in the building were gone for the day by the time his meeting with Jen was over. Mr. Grady asked if I could stay behind to help him prepare for our meeting with the board tomorrow. It was late, and although we were going to wrap up soon, I headed to the break room to grab a snack. And shortly after, I turn around and I see him standing behind the counter. He seemed tense, like something was bothering him. And before I could say anything, he told me about his meeting with the CFO. He warned me that there could be some light changes occurring in the company if the board isn't in agreement with his plan moving forward. So I asked if there was anything I could do to help. He walked from around the counter, this time standing right before me, so close that I could smell his warm, spicy whisper of cologne, laced with something dark and elusive, radiating from his neck.
Sophia, you've been most helpful to me, so yes, there is something you can do. I want you to accompany me to the gala next week.
I tried to keep my composure and told him I would love to accompany him to the annual gala. And then he asked,
Did you get the icebergs I sent for you?
Shocked yet thrilled, I screeched, "Those came from you?"
Only if you want them to be.
At this point, he doesn't realize how many times my heartbeat just tripled in the past minute. I told him, of course I do. Then he grazed my hand with his and looked me in my eyes like he wanted to act on a feeling that we could both sense through each other's auras. But we heard Amy coming out of a conference room nearby, so he quickly changed the subject so that no one would notice the entranced moment we just shared. Life seems so blissful now that I've started a new chapter. Liz and I are getting to hang out more. Nisha found love with Derek, and now I know the chemistry I feel with Mr. Grady is not a delusion. It's also been a while since I've had to block another number from Roland. I'm really beginning to feel like myself again.